Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. I'm Jamie. That's Dave. That's Heath. We're looking at a 14-team PPR draft. So we held this draft for our podcast league, so you can listen to an upcoming episode where we'll review our podcast league teams. You can also check out the full results on CBSSports.com. But we wanted to talk about this league because it's typically larger than the leagues that we talk about, which are 12-team formats, and we wanted to help some of you that play in 14-team leagues and 16-team leagues. You see the first round here, so the talent pool clearly is thinner. Strategy changes a little bit. So, Dave, what's your approach to a 14-team league as you're building out your team and as you see the first round here?
I'm certainly looking for talented players early on. Running back is the position that'll go quickest in a 14-team league. And tight ends, listen, there's only 6 tight ends that we feel really good about taking within the first 5 rounds. That means less than half the league will have a stud tight end. That's a position I'm going to prioritize.
Don't get the 14th pick. It's my strategy in a 14-team league. What I would say, yes, tight end and running back is what I'd like to prioritize. But you see here, my first pick, I got Tyreek Hill because I couldn't believe that he fell that far.
Yep, I took Najee Harris in round 1. Dave, you were 9, right? You took Jonathan Taylor?
We took Jonathan Taylor.
Right, Jonathan Taylor at 9. So you see the first round here. Let's show you the second round here. And I guess maybe one thing of note was Saquon Barkley versus Nick Chubb versus Najee Harris. You know, some fantasy managers dealing with those decisions. Joe Mixon, Antonio Gibson factoring in as well. You see Heath going with Joe Mixon with the first pick in the second round there. Antonio Gibson going with the second pick. So running backs going off early. And then you see there at 18, Patrick Mahomes. But maybe a bigger surprise is Kyler Murray at 22. So Heath, I know for you, we were just talking about this. Somebody asked us about their quarterback situation in round 6. And the question was Dak Prescott or Russell Wilson. And you have both those guys ahead of Kyler Murray, so you would never consider Kyler Murray in round 2.
I would not consider Kyler Murray in round 2 of a league where you can start one quarterback. And I really like it less in a 14-team league because quarterback is still the one position that's kind of deep when you have 14 teams. And so, yeah, that was and to be clear, I have Lamar Jackson number 2. I wouldn't consider him in round 2 either. I think that's an end of round 3 discussion before I'm taking my number 2 quarterback.
Right, so a little surprise there to see Kyler in round 2. We'll show you round 3 now. Again, it's a lot to digest, so I encourage you to check out the full story on the site where you can really look at all of the results in full. But you see some things that may stand out. You got CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper going back-to-back 34th and 35th overall there. James Robinson, we talked about this in the other draft. He goes 36th. Here, behind Chris Carson, Myles Gaskin goes in round 3 as opposed to the other draft where he was in round 6. And so you see some of these guys coming off the board. DeAndre Swift, a round 3 pick as well. We told you that 24th overall was probably too soon in a 10-team league. 32nd overall might be okay in a 14-team league because you're not going to get him if he falls a little further if you are so inclined. That was not your pick, Heath, so somebody else following your rankings there taking DeAndre Swift in the middle of the 3rd round. Let's go now to the 4th round here, and we'll show you some of the other guys coming off the board. This is, again, the tight end round. You see Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts going off the board in this round. Where did T.J. Hawkinson go? He was
earlier, at the end of that round.
The end of that
56.
round.
Oh, he's right there, 56. Excuse me. I was looking at something else. So you see the tight ends here, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, T.J. Hawkinson. I had a tough call. I shared the team with one of our podcast listeners, Todd Rones. We were debating between Mike Davis, Josh Allen, and Kyle Pitts. I wanted Pitts. He wanted Mike Davis. I let him decide because he's a very generous donator to our St. Jude's Fund, and so I let him make the decision on Mike Davis. We'll see if that strategy comes back to play a part there. But Gus Edwards going 54th over here. So, Dave, is this a good spot for him in this draft? Again, he went a little bit sooner, 49th overall in the 10-team league.
100% yes. And just knowing that it's a PPR league, it's a deep league, people prioritize other running backs ahead of them, certainly wide receivers ahead of them. And because it's a 14-team league, a couple of quarterbacks went ahead of him. It makes sense.
All right, we go to round 5 now. And then another surprising pick was the first pick in round 5. Javonte Williams going 57th overall ahead of Darrell Henderson. Which is a little, surprising. Maybe ahead of Kareem Hunt as well. Trey Sermon, that's probably a little bit more of a talking point. Damian Harris also. So, Heath, when you saw, and this was Adam Mazur's pick, you saw Javonte over Henderson, Harris, and Mostert. What was your thoughts?
I wasn't surprised because he loves Javonte Williams. And if you're picking, as someone who just picked on the other end of a 14-team league, you just kind of have to go get your guys. You can't worry too much about ADP because you're not going to ever get a shot at anyone you're considering in the next round. I would much prefer the guys that went right after Javonte Williams to Javonte Williams, but I understand why he did it.
And you like Melvin Gordon better as well because you think he's going to get off to an early start and may hold on to the job. Gordon having a strong 3rd preseason game while Javonte Williams was sitting, not with an injury, but maybe protecting him, which is a good sign for Javonte Williams. All right, let's take a look at our teams. Again, you can see the full results on the site. We just showed you the first 5 rounds, but we want you to, digest it all if you were in a 14-team league. And it's a fun league because, again, it's our podcast listeners, so we know you love our Fantasy Football Today podcast. We'll start with Dave's team, who had the 9th pick here. And so, Heath, I'll let you grade Dave's team. So he's got Russell Wilson at quarterback, Jonathan Taylor, David Montgomery at running back. Very strong there in a 14-team league, quarterback and those 2 running backs. Receiver could be interesting. We only start 2 in this league, Deontay Johnson, Antonio Brown. But you obviously went in early on the tight end with George Kittle. Mecole Hardman is your flex as of now. Broncos defense. And on your bench, you got Sony Michel, DJ Dallas, Mark Ingram, Marquise Brown, Elijah Moore, and Paris Campbell. So, Heath, give him a grade.
It's good to have a good quarterback and a tight end, but as we talked about with your team in the last draft, that makes you sacrifice somewhere. I am shocked at the running back depth on this team. It doesn't seem like a Dave Richard team, but for a 14-team league to have that many good starters, I don't really care. That's an A.
And Dave, you share your team with?
Evan Peterson, podcast listener.
Okay, so you share your team
A couple
as well.
of these decisions were Evan's and not mine
Totally.
along the way, but
Yep.
we ended up, it was interesting. We were going to take Waller in round 2. We ended up taking Montgomery. Waller went the pick ahead of us. We're really glad we took running backs back-to-back in this league because by the time we got to rounds 3 and 4, there wasn't a lot left that we liked.
And you
at
got
the
Kittle,
position.
so it works out just as well.
Yeah,
Obviously,
we got-
there's a little gap, but still not enough that it should worry you that much that you end up with the 3rd best tight end in a position where you want to prioritize it. I did not end up with a great tight end, or at least for the 2021 campaign, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's take a look at your team, Heath. So we got the quarterback situation is Kirk Cousins. It seems like you passed on that position. We told you Joe Mixon, Giovanni Bernard. They're not on the same team anymore, but they are sharing a backfield on the Heath Cummings roster. Tyreek Hill, Tyler Lockett, very strong at receiver, strong at tight end with Mark Andrews. Your flex is Robbie Anderson, so your receiving core factoring the tight end is great. And on your bench, another great receiver, Jamar Chase, Justin Fields, Kenyon Drake, Tevin Coleman, Justin Jackson, and Joshua Kelly. I'll grade your team so that Dave can grade mine. And so, Heath, I'm going to give you a B+. I think the receivers are great. Tight end is awesome. Number 1 running back is great. But the quarterback and second running back could be obviously a little bit of a concern until Justin Fields takes over. Once that happens, that might make it an A roster. But I think you did a nice job here in a 14-team league, prioritizing the positions that you did. I
think you're being kind with the B+. I was not very happy as this was happening. But the thing I like about it looking back now is I can at least see a path. If Justin Fields and Jamar Chase in the second half are what I think they are, this could turn into a very good roster.
But you don't even need Jamar Chase because you have Anderson at the flex spot. I mean, Chase is, you could say
he's a bit of a
the
luxury.
4th receiver.
Yeah.
He's a luxury for you, so it's not a bad situation to have 4 good receivers. All right, I had the 12th pick, and you see here, like I said, I shared the team as well. So I was going to go running back, Dave, with the exact same thought that you had, or we were going to go running back. But after we saw Joe Mixon and Antonio Gibson go, we pivoted, took the 3rd best receiver in Stephon Diggs. So we started Najee Harris and Stephon Diggs. But Tannehill at quarterback, Harris and Davis at running back, Diggs, Kupp, and Boyd are our 3 receivers. We waited on tight end, ended up with Gronk. But on the bench, I like what we have with Jameis Winston. Was a luxury pick, but Kareem Hunt is a very good 3rd running back to have. Jalen Waddle is a good 4th receiver to have. Cole Beasley, Tony Pollard, and Tony Jones. We took a couple lottery ticket options there with Pollard and Jones.
I'm checking to see where you took Tannehill. Looks like late round 7 is where you got him.
Yeah, we waited, and I'll tell you this. Heath, you said picking on an end, especially when you pick a couple spots in front of the end. When we got to that point, you didn't have a quarterback.
He was in my queue.
And Spencer Foster, who picked at 13, also didn't have a quarterback. So we decided to take Tannehill, and then right when it came back on the swing, Spencer decided to take Matthew Stafford. So, Dave, we're running out of time, so just give me a grade.
It's an A. It's a very good team.
All right, thank you very much. We all like our teams. Hopefully they'll be successful, except we have to deal with the guy who rigged the league, which is Adam Azer. All right, Scott wants to know, I have my draft tonight and have the first pick. I'm torn between McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, and Derrick Henry. Can you please help me decide who it is in a 14-team non-PPR league? I think you know the answer, but we'll give you the official word coming up next here on Fantasy Football Today. Want more of the Fantasy Football Today podcast and non-stop year-round fantasy advice? It's simple. Hit the subscribe button and hang with us all throughout the year.